Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you here this morning. As it probably appears, there are some people missing today. Andrew and Richard are both on vacation, and so that means that you all are lucky enough to get to hear from the preacher with the least amount of hair on our staff today. So, yeah, I'm joking, I'm kidding. Anyway, if you are new or visiting with us today, my name is Daryl, and I'm the director of family ministry, and that's just a really fancy way of saying that I work with kids. And so every once in a while, they let me in here to preach, and everybody else wanted to be gone today. So they kind of just said, have at it, it's yours. So I said, okay. So here we are. And last week, Pastor Richard made a cameo appearance. He was here for 1 week, and he started a new series called Psalms for Life. And he preached on Psalm 1, and he really talked about this idea that's going to be running through this whole series, which is this idea that God offers us a blessed life. And specifically, last week, he preached from Psalm 1, and he shared kind of the basis for that, about how God is a source of life. He's a stream and trees and all of this living imagery and creation imagery that we see. And today, we're going to kind of run with that idea, but we're going to be looking at the concept of faith, and specifically how faith creates blessing in our life. And so we are talking about Psalm 46 this morning, which, again, largely has to do with faith, and it talks a bit about blessing. But before we get there, I want to share with you a little bit about a blessing that I have in my life, okay? So there's this thing that you can access it from your computer or on your TV or whatever you use. It's called Netflix, right? Netflix is seriously the coolest thing ever. It's even a little bit outdated now, but what it's done basically is it's made cable TV obsolete, because you now have TV on demand. And there are no commercials. You can just watch, 15 episodes of a show if they're on there, and nobody's going to tell you that you can't. And so it's just this really awesome tool for collection of media. And so over time, what has happened is they have moved from just putting shows that other people have made, shows and movies that other people have made on there, to now they're actually promoting their own content. They're creating their own content, their own movies, their own shows. And it's really cool. And so Netflix has this thing called a queue, okay? And it's basically where you can look at what people are watching, and it makes recommendations for more stuff that you should watch. And so if you were to look at my queue, what you would find are three things. You would find cop shows, you would find cooking shows, and you would find sports shows. That's pretty much it. So movies, anything like that pertaining to those three areas are what's going to pop up. And recently, I just finished watching one of these shows that Netflix puts out. It's a documentary about junior college football, and it's called Last Chance U. And they've done 4 seasons of it, all right? There's the title slide for you. So if you are into sports and you want to check it out on Netflix, that's what it looks like. But this show gives you a glimpse into the life of the coaches, teachers, administration, and players as they try to manage the many aspects of a academic career during the rigors of a football season. And as you watch it, you kind of follow them. It's documentary style. You see a little bit from the game that week. You see a little bit about their stuff in class, their participation in class, or their lack of participation in class, various things. And you hear them talk a little bit about why they like football or whatever else, and why they're at school and all that. And as you do that, you listen and you hear, and there starts to be these themes that come up. And so in this last season that I watched, I was struck by this observation. Life is a very uncertain journey. And if we don't put our faith in the right places, we can find ourselves lost in a hurry. Yes, I know that rhymes, but I did not realize it until 7:30 this morning. So, each one of the athletes that's featured on this show is at junior college because they found themselves on the wrong side of life. Whether it was the wrong side of a high school report card, a college report card, simply being born in the wrong place and going to the wrong high school, a geographical issue, whether they got in trouble with the law, or even the fact that they went to a Division I school and didn't get along with the coach or couldn't make the grades, or something happened in their life that caused them to face a certain level of uncertainty. And so over the course of their lives, these guys have constantly been told and shown in a lot of ways that football will give them the keys to the kingdom, that football will get them where they want to go. And so as a result, they put their faith that they have, any faith that they have in achieving something, into their talent and its ability to get them where they want to go. And then somewhere along the line, they are shown that their talent is probably not enough to help them avoid all of the brokenness and the struggles and the confusion that life has for them. It's not enough to bring them success in life. And so the conflict in the show is created because you have all these athletes that are trying to achieve something. But in the end, they all put their faith in something that is very fragile and very easily broken. And you find that some of them are able to kind of figure things out, and they're able to learn how to live a responsible life and how to take that talent and combine it with other things to get them where they want to go, to get them to that Division I college, to get them to the NFL. But then you see, sadly, that there are others who just can't seem to put the pieces together. And they can't seem to understand why this thing, this talent that they've put their faith in to get them where they want to go, that's been there their whole life, that has gotten them everywhere they wanted to go their whole life, is now all of a sudden not good enough. And they're left with this uncertainty and this struggle. And so even though we're talking about a TV show right now, and it's meant to be dramatic, it's meant to have conflict, it's meant to make you think, I think that there's a very real observation for us here. And it's this: we live in a world that is obsessed with false certainties. We live in a world that wants us to believe that we all have something to offer and that all we have to do is lock into that particular skill set or that particular strategy, and we will ultimately find success. So if you buy into the right financial principles, then you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to live a comfortable life. By attending the right college, you're going to be certain to get the degree you want and build the connections you need to have a successful career. By taking the right classes in high school, you're going to be able to get into the right college to do all of those things. By participating in the right music or theater program, you are going to find your way to Broadway or ultimately your own platinum album. We can make a list that is as long as the state of California about all of these certainties that we want to perpetuate and we want people to believe. However, all of these certainties forget one thing. They don't take into account one thing. Life is not fair. It sounds cliche, but it's very true. We can have all the talent in the world and still miss our goal. We can put in all the work in the world and still miss our goal. We can put our faith in our abilities, and sometimes the story just won't break our way. And we end up lost. We end up facing uncertainty, much like the young athletes that I've just shared with you. And we try to navigate this life and all its craziness without some sort of point, or we realize the point we were searching for is broken and that it's no longer there. We're all looking for something to be certain of, something that we know we can go after, something that we know will always be there. So while this world offers us so many other choices and so many broken paths, so many false certainties, the good news for today is that we have a path that we can all travel. There's a path for people of faith, and there's a path for people in search of faith. The question is, are you ready to take the steps you need to get on the path? Are you ready to take the steps you need to get there? Are you ready to find out what you can be certain of? In a world full of paths that ultimately lead to chaos and confusion, Christians have to believe that the path revealed to us through God's interaction with humanity leads us where we want to go. In a world full of uncertainty, the story of God reveals to us that the only certainty in this life is God. As mentioned earlier, our text for today is Psalm 46. It's not a terribly long passage, it's 11 verses, but it's got some really big, crucial meaning and ideas in it. Most of us who are familiar with the Bible and with Christianity will probably recognize a few lines of it, and specifically you probably will recognize Psalm 46, verse 10, which says, "Be still and know that I am God." It's probably one of the most quoted verses and we hear it all the time, used as an encouragement when we face struggle or when we face trial. If we are still and we let God do his thing, then eventually we will come through. Eventually we will be through that struggle and we will again find the success we are looking for. I could preach an entire sermon just on verse 10, but doing so would be a great disservice to all of you. That's how much truth there is in the 11 verses of this psalm. Psalm 46 is a hymn, so it's found in the Jewish hymn book, much like the one that's in front of you in the pew. And the purpose of this psalm was to remind people of God and why they put their faith in him and what exactly God is capable of doing. So we're not talking about this idea of a God that you would see that might be an idol or something that's made of gold or something that's made of wood or stone. We're talking about Yahweh. We're talking about the God who delivered the Israelites from slavery, who won wars against foreign nations, who led the Israelites through the desert, and who at numerous times in history controlled the natural elements of this earth to lead the Israelites in the direction he wanted them to go. Psalm 46 is ultimately a reminder that God is sovereign over all things and that he is the most powerful force in the entire universe. In addition to revealing the certainty of God and his interaction in our lives, it also reveals to us that God is committed to his people. He is committed to providing for his people. He is committed to interacting with his people, and he's committed to protecting his people. All of this, by the way, is backed up by numerous stories and points made in the Old and the New Testament. It's a theme that runs throughout the entirety of the story of God, throughout the entirety of the Bible. And so the final stanza of this song serves ultimately as a proclamation that God is something to behold and that he is the most powerful being in the world. It's full of commands, and it even starts with an invitation to come and see. And this is the section that contains that famous exhortation to be still. But it's important for us that when we read that we understand what it really means. I talked about how a lot of times Christians will quote that verse and we'll use it as kind of like an encouragement for us during a tough time. An encouragement, my life might not be so great, but I can trust God and I can keep going. And that's great. That's an important part of what that verse is supposed to do. But there's also another component of it that we miss. And it's this idea that this verse is not just an encouragement. It's not just something that you look at and you say, okay, I can make it through this. That verse is a command. It is God telling the people of Israel to be still and know that I am God. Be still and know who it is that you're interacting with. Be still and know who it is that you're being called to put your faith in. Psalm 46 is ultimately an 11-verse reminder of why we should put our faith in God. And so for the people of God, this passage is not an empty promise. It's not simply an encouragement. It's a reminder of what God has done and the recommitment that he is making to continue to protect, interact, and provide for his people. Psalm 46 is meant to give us certainty about God and his desire to interact with us, provide for us, and protect us. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your story is, or even in this moment, what you believe about God. The only thing that I care about is that you take the time to think about the answer to this question. What are you certain of? What are you certain of? Seems like a pretty simple question. We could probably make a list of things, but here's why I asked that, and here's the reality. We need to know what we're certain of because the things that we are certain of ultimately reveal the things that we place our faith in. The things that we are certain of reveal where our faith lies. So are you certain that your career will provide protection for you? Are you certain that your career will provide for your physical needs? Are you certain that your marriage or your relationship will provide you with the relational human interaction and the emotional connection that you require? Are you certain that your education will give you the opportunity to provide for yourself? What are you putting your faith in? The Christian abolitionist, a guy by the name of William Wilberforce, he's an English senator, basically. He was part of what they call Parliament. And he was well educated, came from a rich family. And so as a result of that, he got into politics pretty early in life and spent most of his young adult life as a do-nothing politician. He showed up, he voted when he was supposed to, he went to all the right parties, he communicated with all the right people, he did his very best. He ultimately became friends with somebody who would become the Prime Minister of England. But later in his life, and after struggling through some illnesses, he came to a realization that his life was so much greater, and there were so many things that were certain that he was not taking advantage of. He came to a saving faith in Jesus, and that saving faith led him to try to take head on and tackle the evil that is the African slave trade. And he ultimately pushed a lot of legislation and did a lot of things that helped him become responsible for the abolishment of slavery in the United Kingdom and all of its colonies. And he had this to say about the intersection of faith and people. I'm disturbed when I see the majority of so-called Christians having such little understanding of the real nature of the faith they profess. Faith is a subject of such importance that we should not ignore it because of the distractions or the hectic pace of our lives. That very much defines the conflict that we are attempting to expound on or tackle today. And the reality is that our world wants us to believe that every opportunity, every relationship, and every path is available to you if you are willing to do all the right things to get there. But what it doesn't tell you is that all the paths, all the opportunities, and all the relationships this world has to offer are broken. And without the proper perspective, and without the proper certainty, and without the proper point of direction, they will lead you down a path of brokenness. Money will not fix your debt problem. Couples therapy will not fix your marriage. More education will not always fulfill your career desires. And more practice will not guarantee you a scholarship or a path to stardom. The truth is that none of that is certain. You can take all the steps imaginable and you'll still come up short of your goals. You can put in all the work and still come up short of what you really deserve. You can put your faith in all of those things and still experience the chaos and the confusion that comes when uncertainty creeps into your life and slaps you in the face. However, that is not your only option today. And it's not your only option at any day. Every day on this earth, you have the ability to choose one thing that is certain: God. Every day, you have the opportunity to put your faith in someone that promises to interact with you, provide for you, and protect you. You just have to make the choice to be certain, to put your faith in his ability to influence your life. I won't promise you that he will help you reach success and that he's going to fulfill all your dreams and that he's going to make your life easy. But here's what I will promise you. When life gets hard and when everything you are certain of is lost, God will still be certain. Matthew 11:28-30 states, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This verse even says that not only will God meet you in the midst of your uncertainty, not only will he meet you in the midst of your pain, but he will help you carry the burden of your uncertainty and all of the brokenness and pain that comes with it. He may not make your life easy, but he will give you the strength to make it through things you never thought you could. When everything else in your life is uncertain, God will be certain. Are we, this church, a community of believers living like we are certain of the impact God can have on our lives? Are we a church that is certain of the impact that faith can have on other people's lives? What impact would we have on our community if we were so certain of the faith we have in God that we didn't let anything keep us from sharing that with other people? Everywhere we turn, there are people desperately looking for something or for someone to put their faith in. Everywhere we turn, we see people in need of something that only God can offer them. Church, we're called to be the messengers, to be the ones who are communicating the offer that God makes to all of us. When people are looking for rest from the challenges they face, we have the answer. Are we sharing it with them? Homework kits are great. They're going to make an impact. There's going to be a lot of kids who might not normally receive those things that are going to get those, and it just might make their school year. Hygiene kits are great. Those are necessary items, things that make people feel valued, things that make people feel important, things that make people feel good about themselves. Operation Christmas Child boxes are great. They give us an opportunity to help people outside of our normal sphere of influence. But the reality is that none of those things will ever take the place of the impact you can have by sharing your personal faith journey with somebody who does not know Jesus. Those things will impact our community. Those things will impact the world we live in. They might help somebody far and wide come to know who Jesus is because of our act of compassion. But they will not replace the impact of our personal faith experience, of our personal faith story. We all have a responsibility to speak to the uncertainty in people's lives, to show them that when people fail, that when the government fails, that when the city fails, that when the police fail, that when the church fails, that God will never fail. If we can do that, than some of the things we see in this world that seem so disruptive, that seem so powerful, that seem to have such a grip on our society, such a grip on the lives of people, might begin to weaken. We might see things like addiction and disease, relational brokenness, sexual brokenness. We might see those things begin to weaken, begin to even, dare I say, disappear. All because of the impact of the certainty of God, of the faith we share. We will start to see the power of God impact the world around us and have a dramatic impact on the world that it created. We just have to take the steps in faith to get there. We have to be willing to do our part, to play our role. God is here. He is alive. And he desperately wants to move in our church, in our community, and in our world. The question that we all have to answer today is, are we certain enough of our faith in him to join him on the journey? Pray with me. God, we love you this morning. We are so thankful for the work that you are doing in our lives. We are so thankful for everything that you offer us, for the love, for the grace, for the protection, for your provision, for your interaction with us. That's why we're here. We so desperately believe in you and your ability to impact our life. And so we pray as we go from here, God, that you would give us the strength we need to go off and to share, to talk about the certainty of you and the impact that you are making because we put our faith in you. Lord, help us to trust you. Help us to walk with you. We give you this time today. May it all be for your glory. In your name we pray. Amen.